Welcome back, first graders. I want to show you one of my favorite posters, and this is a kind of an exciting lesson for first grade because we get to study the idea of textures and patterns. So this is actually a really huge poster. It's got all kinds of animals on it. And the artist that made this poster was thinking the entire time about what the animals felt like. So when I'm touching this poster right now, it's very smooth. It's flat. It's a painting. And it doesn't feel like much of anything. It's just smooth and flat. But if I can imagine going inside of this painting, when I look at it, if I touch over here in my imagination, it feels soft and fluffy. If I touch over here, it probably feels a little wet, maybe a little soft and smooth for the nose. If I touch over here, it would feel smooth and pointy and a little bit sharp in some areas. This would feel feathery. And this would feel smooth and maybe even a little thick. And sometimes if leaves are really, really thick, they can be almost like sharp or pointy on the edges. So this whole piece, this whole painting is just smooth and flat. But the way that the artist painted this to describe the fur and all the parts of the animals makes it feel like it has a texture. So texture is the way that something actually feels, excuse me, or it's the way that it looks like it feels. So texture is a feeling with our hands, or it could be a feeling, it could be visual with our eyes. And that's what we're going to just explore today to make our artwork look even more exciting as we move on in first grade. So I'm going to put this poster off to the side, and what I would like you to do today for the activity is do a texture study. So the first thing I'll have you do is take like a piece of paper. I'm just going to use a piece of computer paper actually. And if you'll fold with me, it's also a great thing to do as a first grader. So I'm going to fold my piece of paper in the hot dog way. And if you need to take a moment and pause the video, that's fine. So we have the hot dog way. Then I'm going to fold it the hamburger way once and make a crease and fold it again the hamburger way a second time. So I have a small rectangle. I had a large rectangle, now I have a small rectangle. And I'm going to open it up. What I'd like you to do is go around wherever you are, your home or wherever you can find a space, and I'd like you to do a texture rubbing. So to do a texture rubbing, some of you might have done this in kindergarten and other students never have, and so that's why we want to have this experience. I have a crayon and all the paper has been taken off of it. My crayon is short. It's easier often to use a shorter crayon rather than using a full-length crayon. So if you can find a crayon and use it like this, that would be the best thing. And Mrs. Samala can't walk around because I have a camera, so what I've done is I brought in my texture boards to draw from. So these are my texture boards and my texture materials. So your job is to go around the house or wherever you're at and find different surfaces to do rubbings on, and I'll show you what that looks like. If I was walking around my home, I would find, I would go and touch with my hands and think, ooh, wonder what that looks like if I could do a texture rubbing. Take your crayon and put your piece of paper over the top of it first of all. Take your crayon and put it on its side and go ahead and rub and see what kind of texture you have. It doesn't work very well when you use the tip of the crayon. You have to put it on its side and press firmly. Ooh, so that was exciting. It's always fun to see what texture rubbing looks like. I love this day. So then I'll take another board and I'll rub on there, and this is the texture I get. So Mrs. Samala has these special ones in the classroom that are exciting to look at, and like I said, your job as a student is to go around and find more and more textures around your house. And it's quite satisfying because it's exciting to see what happens. If your surfaces are really smooth, it's less exciting, and pretty soon, after doing this for a while, you could even do another sheet of paper if you wanted to. You start to see the textures with your eyes and not before you can even feel them with your hands, and that means your brain is getting used to seeing textures and feeling textures. I'll do a final one over here. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and just fill up your piece of paper as best you can. And if you want to do another one, go ahead. I love those awesome textures. Something you might realize about textures is that things repeat. So these squares repeat, these lines or dashes repeat, these lines repeat. Everything is repeating, and that's the huge idea today with textures, because we're going to explore textures and patterns as well. So this is my texturized sheet of paper that I'll use. And then the second thing I'd like you to do is fold with me again, and now we're going to do some drawing. So I will take a piece of paper and we're going to fold it again, and these are the two things that you have to do for this week. You'll fold it the hamburger way again, but we're going to do this a little bit different, so don't get ahead of yourself. Then we're going to open it up. So I have this line down the middle. I want you to fold the edge in, so it's a thin fold, then flip it over and fold the other edge in and open it up. So I folded it once like this, or you could fold it like this and get the same idea. It's just however works easiest for you, okay? Then I'd like you to fold it the hamburger. It's all opened up again, the piece of paper, and I'd like you to fold it the hamburger way again. And then fold it the hamburger way again. And if you need to pause the video and watch that again, that's totally fine. And what I have are a lot of squares on my paper, and that's okay. Don't worry about it, okay? So now what I'd like you to do is walk around, and I want you to draw things that give you the feeling of texture or give you the feeling of pattern. Textures repeat, and they're going to feel like soft. So if I was going to draw my sweatshirt today is kind of older, and it has this feeling to it that looks like this, where it's just little teeny tiny dots on there. So it has this kind of a feeling to it. And you can choose to fill up the whole rectangle if you want to, but I'm not going to fill up the whole rectangle for this. And some of these textures would take a lot of time, so please don't feel like it's necessary. I just want you to get a good section done so we really know what that feels like. So when I look at that, I think, yeah, that's what my sweatshirt feels like. And this is a tricky part of it. I know that my dog feels very soft, and he has kind of shorter hair. And so I can't do a texture rubbing with my dog. He wouldn't like it, and it wouldn't turn out well because he's so soft. Just like if I was going to try to texture rub on a panda, it wouldn't turn out very well. So with that, I can use some light lines, and I can use, his hair grows kind of in a curve, like a soft curve. And I don't want to use hard lines that look like this, because that would feel like coarse, like whiskers. But the soft lines are going to feel more like my dog. So I'm going to use my pencil in a soft way, whereas on this one, my sweater's a little scratchy. I was using some hard lines. So now we're thinking about how we use our tool as pressure to make things look stiff or harder and then look lighter. You can also use a crayon for this. Mrs. Samala is just used to using a pencil, so it feels good to my hands. My hair today is curled, and so I'm going to do some curly lines on my paper, and that could give me the feeling of my curly hair today. And I'm using kind of a medium texture with that. I'd like you to do half of these, which is going to be 8 squares, creating textures. So textures are kind of loose and repeated. They are different than patterns. So 8 squares, if you could, thinking about the idea of textures, the way that things feel, and repeating that, like I said, in a loose pattern. Then I'd like you to take these 8 bottom squares and make 8 patterns. Patterns are definitely more man-made. They're more human-made. So patterns are going to feel pretty specific. So I am going to use circles with smaller circles on the inside, and this is a pattern. This could feel like a texture too, but I'm being pretty specific and trying to fill up my space and repeating it in a pretty exact way. This I wasn't worried about. If some things got closer together, further apart, that's fine. I'll do another pattern. I love triangles. So I am going to do a long, skinny pattern, and then I can connect it maybe with, maybe I'll do a longer, skinnier pattern over here. And then I've created triangles and diamonds. And maybe in this pattern, I will do squares, and then rectangles, and then squares, and then rectangles. Ooh, that feels like a fun pattern too. So you go through and decide how you want to fill up your sections with whatever kind of shapes and lines that you would. Oh, here's a great one too. I can do a curvy one, and I'm going to pattern out my curves on here. And that almost feels like a pattern and a texture, sort of. So fill up your 8 squares with patterns and 8 squares with textures, and think about how things repeat and have some fun. You can take a photo of both of these things. It'd be so fun to watch you walk around and create your texture rubbings. And we're going to put this together in another assignment in the next class period. So have some fun. Thanks, friends, for watching. Bye.